Rocky Balsamo here from my office, and he is really successful at doing open houses, and he thought it would be great to get everyone together and share some of his tactics. So Rocky has been in the business almost 20 years now? Yeah. And #1 team at Weidel, and was ranked last year, was #1 in the Mercer County.
Yes.
Yeah. So definitely take some notes and listen. So I'd like to welcome Rocky Balsamo.
So as Anne-Marie said, this kind of morphed, so my PowerPoint may not be spot on, so forgive me if it's not, but this was supposed to be 15 minutes at our office meeting, and it turned out to be this.
And we love you for it, Rocky.
Yes, I know. So welcome. I'm glad you took time out of your busy schedule. I hope you can get something from this. Before we get started, this is by no means the Bible on how to do open houses. I know Scott does classes on open houses. I know some of you may have come from other brokerages and other training seminars and so on. This is just the way we do open houses. And I'm hopeful that not only will you learn something from me, but I'll learn something from you that we can incorporate. And that's what this is about. This is about sharing ideas and sharing processes. As Anne-Marie said, I've been in the real estate business almost 20 years. This year, or actually the year we started with Weidel, was actually my pivotal year. I spent 18 years in the steel business, 17 years in the steel business, and now I'm on my 18th year in real estate. So I'm no longer a guy who sold steel and now sells real estate. I'm a real estate agent who used to sell steel. I think that's important. Our team is #1 in Mercer County. We owe that accomplishment to our loyal clients and to my agents who work so hard and to the company that we value so much. So, like you, I'm a realtor. I run a business, just like you do. If you don't think of it that way, you should start. I think it's an important piece. And I'm also a grandpa now, as of August. So if I seem a little distracted, it's because pictures come in around the clock. So let's get started. Let's start with a couple of premises before we actually jump into this. So the main purpose of this class is to talk about developing leads through doing open houses, be they buyer leads or seller leads. Not everyone here has their own listing. So as listing agents, I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that there are other agents out there who would like to do open houses, but maybe don't know that we have properties available. We must always, and this is critical, whether it's your listing or my listing or someone else's, we must always remember that we have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. Every time you open that door for the open house, for that one brief moment, you are the seller's agent. You are a representative of the broker and you are the seller's agent. As soon as someone comes in, what are you then when you meet the first person who comes into an open house? Dual agent. I love you all. I was hoping nobody said buyer's agent, so that's great. We should also acknowledge a mutual debt. I think this is really critically important because as a listing agent, I think sometimes listing agents feel like, oh, I'm giving this young new agent an opportunity to hold my great listing open. And a lot of times as seasoned agents who are doing open houses for other agents, we feel like, well, this listing agent should love me because I'm helping him promote his property or her property. And the reality is there's opportunity on both sides, and I think we should recognize that. I think we should be grateful to the hosting agent who's promoting my listing when I can't or don't have the time to be there. And the hosting agent should be grateful that this opportunity is coming their way, and it is an opportunity. When I first started with Coldwell Banker in Princeton Junction in 1998, and my first year in the business, I sold 21 properties. I'll tell you more about that, but the open house was what put me on the map, okay? So today we're going to talk about basically 4 key points, and I'm going to rush through a couple of them only because I know Scott covers them pretty directly, but the thing I want to focus on is the follow-up, and if we have some time afterwards, if people want to hang back and ask me some questions about that, we can do that. The poet, Mary Oliver, says, "Tell me what it is you plan to do with your wild and precious life." And again, we hear from an African proverb, "For tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today." I had a really interesting conversation with a new client this past week. His name is Joe. Joe and I were talking, and Joe's a little bit older than me. He's 60 years old, and he's looking at buying a house. And you know, we were trying to vision out what Joe's looking at down the road. And Joe looked at me and he said, you know, my girlfriend said to me the other day, you know, if we're lucky, Joe, we've got 20 summers left, good ones. And when he said that, I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. There is, whether we like it or not, a clock ticking every morning, every day. Take every opportunity you can to enjoy every day and enjoy the people you love. Don't steal from that. What do I mean by that? Prepare, plan. When you're going helter-skelter and you get halfway across town and think, oh my God, I left my super key at home. Don't do that. Take the time to have systems and procedures in place so that you're not wasting precious time. Because I don't care whether you're 20 years old or 70 years old. The clock is ticking for all of us. So let's get started with this. Okay, so as we prepare for the open house, the devil is in the details. So let me ask a question. So then your next opportunity for an open house is this Sunday. At what point should you start planning? And if you want to raise your hands and take a guess, and if you're too afraid to do that, one of my agents should at least try. Thank you.
Monday. Yesterday.
You sure?
I'm gonna say,
Think about that. Are you absolutely sure?
I'm saying,
Last week.
Should be on your business plan.
That's a trick question.
It's not a trick question. Should be on your business plan. Every agent in this office should have a business plan. That business plan should contain open houses. When you look at the calendar of the year ahead in 2018, there are approximately 9 recognized holidays, that surround Sundays. I'm sure there are other religious holidays and there are other observances. That's why I've given you 3 floaters. That's 12. So we have 52 weeks, and we take 12 out, we've got 40 weeks left. My first year in the real estate business, I did this. I said, how many Sundays do I have to be committed to something that I couldn't get out of? There were 40 left, and I took those 40 Sundays and I did an open house every one of those 40 Sundays the first year I was in the real estate business. You need to plan everything. And those of you, how many people came to my last class about systems that I did? Okay, so a handful. Everything that I do is about systems and planning. And so this here, and you've got a copy of this. This is my open house sheet. So these are my listings. If you look here, there's nothing up here. See, we start July because we hid the rest of the year. These are all sold. As we work our way out, you can see, what do you think happened to these? They're sold, no more open houses. So when you come down here, we've got 2 listings right now that are unsold. I have a marketing calendar. Does anybody else have a marketing calendar? Okay, so that's Chris has one. A marketing calendar is part of my business plan. It says on my marketing calendar, I'm doing an open house this Sunday, and I'm doing an open house that Sunday, and I'm doing an open house this Sunday. That's just one part of my marketing calendar. This is kind of an appendix or an ancillary piece. This is how I keep track of all my listings when the springtime comes, and I've got a lot of them to make sure that I keep my promise to my client, which is one open house a month until their house is sold. And so, as we get into the fall and I have less listings, I'm able to say to my clients, look, we're running out of year, so we're going to do them every other week. Okay. If an open house is something that you're going to count on, if you're doing open houses because you need 3 hours to read without your kids, then enjoy that. But if you're doing them as part of your real estate business, they need to end up on your marketing calendar, and you need to be deliberate about them. So the next question I have for you is, this coming Sunday is your open house. What are you doing to get the word out? And if I could, anybody want to give it a shot? Is anybody scheduled to do an open house this Sunday? Okay. So what are you doing to get the word out?
Nancy put it in the paper.
Okay, so it's in the paper, so that's good.
And I'm gonna put it on Trend. I actually just got back from Mexico last night, so I'll get it on Trend first thing as soon as I get out of this class. So it'll go on Zillow and Realtor and all that other good stuff.
Facebook.
And the sign, and my Facebook. business Facebook.
Good. Good. That's what I wanted to hear. When you get ready for an open house, Monday is the day, not Friday afternoon before you go out for drinks. Monday's the day. We don't want you all of a sudden Friday going, ah, crap, it's 5 o'clock and I don't have an open house for this Sunday. That's a mess, and it's an accident waiting to happen. All right, so anything else anybody else does that?
Denise.
Denise, I'm sorry, I apologize.
That's all right.
Anything else that Denise didn't mention that somebody does? Tell me about your Facebook post.
I would pretty much just share the link from my website, and then have the open house.
We're gonna talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes.
Yeah, that'd be good, because I don't know that that's the best way to do it.
Here's a surprise, I'm gonna show you.
Good.
I also do like a promote on Facebook. that-
Okay, good. Do you do the
Like the
boost
boost,
ones,
yeah.
so it's like $10?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea, I like that. I've used those before too. That's a really good idea. So here's something else I never realized, but I found out when I was at Long and Foster, that some agents, listing agents, got a little grabby with commissions. You need to know what the ground rules are when you're doing an open house. So if you're doing an open house for me, I don't ask you for any referral fees. I don't say, well, you're doing an open house on my farm. If any listings come up, they're mine. And if you're working with a colleague who wants those things, consider working with somebody else, okay? There are plenty of open houses. How many people realize that if Sue Thompson she's from your office, right? Lee? So Sue Thompson from the Hopewell office has a listing in Hamilton, and you're working in the Bordentown office, you can actually call Sue and say, hey Sue, can I do an open house at your listing in Hamilton? Now I know the company I know that Rich had talked about, we're gonna be setting up, I think, a Facebook page soon where it'll be a closed group where agents can talk to other agents and say, I have this listing available, and then that way it's gonna cut across company and office lines. So if you see, like if somebody says, hey, I've got an open house available and it's 2 blocks from where you farm, you'll be able to do that. But so the ground rules are, make sure you understand what you're stepping into. Now you may want to do this open house, even if the listing agent does ask you for a referral on all leads, if it's in a place where you want to get more business. I would recommend. Paperwork. Who's going to provide the paperwork? What's the paperwork going to look like? Does the listing agent say to you, don't worry, I have fact sheets on the property? That's fine. If he or she says that, you need to prepare your own packet in addition to what they have available. You, as the hosting agent, have a responsibility to the listing agent to provide them with realtor's contact info. So now you've done an open house, and anyone who's done an open house recently knows that people come in and they put their realtor's information down. If somebody writes working with an agent, I tell my agents, if you're doing my open house and they write working with an agent, you need to tell me who the hell that was, because I can't follow up with them if I don't know who it was.
Right.
Okay? So you're doing an open house for me, and somebody walks in and says, oh, we have an agent with Weicker. What's his or her name? I don't care if you get a phone number, just get a first name and a last name and get it spelled as legibly as you can, because my responsibility to my seller is to follow up on those people who come to that open house. It's just like a showing, okay? The open house roster, my agents all know this. Before they leave the house, who's got an iPhone? Anybody, just hold one up. Okay. Who knows how to take a picture of a document? You want to show me? Okay, so how do you take a picture of the document right there? Straight over top of it. Okay? Nothing like this. I was getting these for a while. When you do an open house for me, before you leave that house, my agents know this, I want a picture of the open house sign-in sheet. And you can take a red pen, a magic marker, a black Sharpie, I don't care. But write my leads, and I'll know that all the rest are realtor driven and that I need to follow up on them. There's a reason that we do that. And anybody want to guess why?
To provide the information to the homeowner so that you can say how many showings have
equipment on the property.
More than that. Go ahead, Sue.
You could follow immediately.
Well, yeah, that's the first priority. Second priority is, how many people have ever had to get a price reduction from one of their sellers? Come on, if you've been licensed for more than 5 years. When I go sit with my seller, I pull out at showing time the number of showings I've had. And I say to my seller, we've had 28 showings in the last month, okay? That means that my marketing is working. I brought 28 people to your house in 30 days. They didn't buy. That's not my fault. I brought them to your house. That's, you hired me. But that's not the only thing. Here is my open house sheet. There were 12 more people to come. I actually brought 40 people to your house. 12 of them through my influence. That's super critical. Don't miss this piece. Every time I sit down with the seller and talk to them about a price reduction, I've got my open house sheets in hand and say, okay, well, we had 28 showings through other brokers, and then we had 12 more that we brought to you. Okay, so it's super important. And then the other thing is, I ask my agents, and Chris is I'm gonna embarrass Chris for a minute. Chris is the best at this. I would say Brian does a really excellent job at this as well. I want a summary of what happened at the open house. Mary and John came through and they loved everything but the pool. And I don't think it's for them. Something that I know that you had 7 people come through, and the people that I'm not following up with, I don't need to know who they are, what they're listing. I don't want to, I'm not trying to take her leads away. I just need to say to my seller, this is what happened yesterday, okay? Our open house packet is up here on this table. After we're done, if you want to take a look, I mean, this is essentially what's in there. And my assistant Claire prepares it. So if you do an open house for me, at some point, you'll get an envelope like this. It says your name on it. It has the address. Somebody tell me what they bring to an open house. Does everybody bring everything that's on that list?
Yes.
Everything that's on that list?
Yes.
Yes, generally.
Okay. Has anyone ever had the real estate commission come to their open house? Raise your hand. I have. 3 times. And 3 times, they like me. And 3 times I've had my CIS, my dual agency forms. I've had my business card with my name and annotated properly as a sales associate and not a realtor, even though I am a realtor. I've had all of this information, okay? Make sure you have this. Does everybody know what a rate plug mortgage flyer is? Does anybody not know what that is? And if you don't, raise your hand because I want to tell you. Okay, your mortgage rep will do these for you, okay? And we always send about a dozen extra black and white MLS sheets. Why do we do that? Because let's say we send 20 sheets out and this house is the hottest house in the market and 40 people show up. I want to have some backup stuff for my agents. There's a note in the file that says after the open house, recycle these. We don't want to leave those behind. Okay. We're going to jump to a form here, and if I can get you to take one and pass them around, that would be great. Just take one and pass them. How do you pick? No, let me start again. How do you know what open house you're going to be doing the next time you do it? How do you know which open house you're going to be doing? How do you choose it?
Plan ahead.
Okay, plan ahead, but I mean, how do you plan ahead? Tell me what you do. I mean, if it's not your listing.
Oh, it's not my list.
Price reduction, decent price reduction.
Okay.
Yeah, when my office needs somebody,
What office are you with? Flemington, okay. So, Ed Stwicky has a new listing that just had a price reduction in Burlington City. Are you driving from Flemington to Burlington City? Probably not. So I want you to be super deliberate about what you choose to do for your open houses. If you're in Flemington, you want to do stuff that you want to do, right? I mean, it's your choice. You want to do what you want to do. I see this, and it makes my head spin off my shoulders when a listing agent sends an email through our wonderful processor that says, hey, I have 211 Main Street, does anybody want to do an open house? And some new agent goes, yeah, I'll do it. And they're driving 45 minutes from their farm to do this open house. It makes no sense. You have to be super deliberate about what you choose to hold open. Hold something open that is going to enhance your business. Don't wait for the listing agent to say, look what I have. Look, I have a carrot. Who wants my carrot? I want you to go to listing agents and say, hey, I see you have a listing right across the street from my farm. Do you mind if I hold it open this Sunday? And they say, no. How about next Sunday? Well, I was going to hold it open next Sunday. How about the following Sunday? When I was first in business with Coldwell Banker, my first year in the business, I used to get these really crappy open houses in the middle of nowhere. And I'd sit there for 3 hours and nobody would show up. And I'd be scratching my head. And it didn't take me more than a month to figure out that I had to be more proactive. I was scheduling these things on Friday, and I was getting all the desperate agents who had nobody else who wanted to host these open houses. You need to be deliberate about what you're doing. So let's jump to this getting ready for your open house. So one of our processes is we're going to check first our own listings. So if you're a listing agent, you want to check your own listings. If an open house is something that you want to do as part of your lead generation, if you don't have anything that's kind of in queue, you have your calendar here, if you don't have anything that's in queue, check with your colleagues, maybe your friends in the office, check with the whole office, and then check with the company, okay? Don't do an open house for the sake of being busy on Sunday. If you can't find something that's worthy of your time, don't do it, do something else. When you do find listings, make a list, 2, 3, 4 of them, and see which ones are best, and start working with the listing agents, okay? I can tell you that a couple of the agents from my office, who've held open houses for me, who are not on my team, are really good. And they would be the first people I would go back to if I needed assistance with an open house. And there are a couple that aren't. And it's all about sticking true to kind of our standard, okay? Once you've done the open house, we talked about confirming the ground rules, making sure that, if there are referral fees, you understand what they are going in. If the listing agent is providing you with a packet, what's in that packet? Do you need to bring your own CIS form and so on and so forth? And make sure that after the open house, you take a picture of your open house, you can send it to the listing agent. One of my agents did an open house for another agent, and I won't say who or what office. And when they were done, they tried to offer this agent the names and contact info of the people who showed up who had realtor information. She said, oh, no, don't worry about it, I don't need that. And I was flabbergasted. I mean, for me, that's like gold. Because essentially, if there are 3 names on that list, those are 3 showings that I need to follow up, and I promised my seller I would. Let's jump to Wednesday morning on this sheet. So it's on the bottom. So you've done all those things that we talked about. You've asked the listing agent to put it in Trend. You've asked the listing agent to put it on Zillow. You've asked the listing agent, or you've posted something in social media. Now we get to Wednesday, and you look on Trend, and it's still not in the MLS, and you don't see it on Zillow as an open house. You need to text or email the listing agent and say, hey, just a general reminder, I'm still doing that open house on Sunday, right? I didn't see it in Trend. Can you put it in Trend this morning? Okay. Don't call them. Just send them a text, give them a gentle reminder, okay? Now it's time. Chris Reed. Oh, that's Chris Reed. This is Chris Reed. Okay. We talk about signs. How many people own their own signs, or have signs that are branded, that are their branding? So 1, 2,
Open house signs or
3.
just?
Open house signs. 3, 4. And half of them are on my. These are my open house signs, okay? I'll make it easy for you, they're 50 bucks a piece, they're not cheap. Every time somebody in Lawrence throws one in a dumpster, it makes me crazy. These are cheap, and actually I like to use these more frequently in the spring, summer, and fall when the ground's soft. I use these in the winter, okay? Get your own signs. If you're going to do this, if this is important to you, my dad was a mechanic, and he said, never borrow tools from another mechanic, okay? My father-in-law was a steam fitter. He said, never borrow another man's tools, okay? I'm happy to lend my open house signs because you know what? They've got all my branding on them. You can use them anytime you want, okay? This is another way for you to get your name out in the community. Let's look at some of these really, really bad signs. So has anybody ever seen a sign like this where they keep crossing things out? That's nice. This is the power team of Ken and Chuck. One of them has a pulse, one doesn't. And one of that's not the funny thing about this. Do you see what it says here?
Can't read it.
They were voted the 8th best real estate team.
Oh my gosh.
So I know that when I go and choose a doctor, I want the 8th best doctor. I don't want the best doctor. This guy says reduced, but I'm not stupid or desperate.
Oh, wow.
Okay? What's this one say? It's not haunted. This one says zombie free. Those are kind of cute. This one's in front of an outhouse. The worst part about signage is, and Chris and I just had this conversation, if your signs look like they were dragged behind a pickup truck, get rid of them. Don't fall in love with them. Get rid of them. Go out and buy new ones. I think that agents who don't have signs with their names on them are wasting a great marketing opportunity. Those little guys over there with the stick in the ground, they're cheap as dirt. All right. Selfies. Who owns a selfie stick? Okay. This is how I post my open houses on Facebook. Okay. This is how I post. Why? Don't make me say it out loud, please. Because people love me, and they want to see me. They don't care about this. Maybe they care a little bit about this, they care about this. They care about seeing me. I have 1,050 some odd friends on Facebook. They want to know what I'm doing. I use another thing. I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see if it does. Yeah, let's try this. God help me. Don't laugh at my socks either. I did this to my iPhone.
So good morning, Facebook friends. Rocky Balsamo coming here to talk to you about our open houses for today, Sunday. We've got 3 really great open houses this morning. 25 Holt Circle in Mercerville. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath Cape Cod style home listed at $2,099. Great starter home in a great neighborhood. Excuse me, on a great street. Then we have 15 Bruin Drive.
Okay, stop. Do you notice this? Can you? This is hard to see. What this says here is these are URLs. Everybody know what a URL is? It's www.something.com. These are URLs for each of those 3 listings. So now what they've got is they've got a little multimedia here, okay? They've got, I buy a URL for every single one of my listings. I go to GoDaddy, my team, we just went over this. I go to GoDaddy, I spend $12.95. I buy www.211mainstreet.com, and then I point it at either my Circle Picks virtual tour, or the listing on the Weidel website, okay? I want it pointing at something that gets them back to me. So now I've got a little multimedia here, I've got extra media here that they can, if they heard something they like and they want to go to it, they don't have to start searching for the listing, okay? Do you see how many, can you read that?
Yeah.
1,290 people were reached with this. When was the last time you mailed 500 postcards? Because I reached 700 plus more people. This, I don't do this every week. This is, I mean, it's doing these videos surprisingly is more challenging than you would think, because what I do
Hey gang, good morning. It's Sunday morning. It's a beautiful Sunday. We're out here at the Manors in Lawrenceville, hosting an open house at 23.
So I have
2-bedroom, 2-bath, second floor.
one of these. If you don't have one, these things are awesome.
Kitchen, bathrooms been upgraded.
Lots myself. So my son gave me this. Stat, I bet you could do your own videos. And essentially, any iPhone fits in here, any Samsung, and it can stand here. It can do this. You put it around a railing. You can put it on the tailgate of your pickup truck while you're standing in the parking lot of a condominium. The other thing I do when I do these is I take a sheet of paper and a Sharpie, and I write bullet points so that I don't forget what I want to say, and I take them to the tailgate of my truck. And of course, the people in the neighborhood think I'm cuckoo, okay? But this is what you get. The other thing is, and what I like the most about this, you see I've got my LinkedIn here, I've created a little underworld of people who share my posts. And I've basically gone to some of my clients and said to them, hey, if you ever see one of these open house posts, I know they seem a little goofy, would you share? And they in fact do. All right, let's get back to where we were here. Okay, selfies, I'm not gonna teach you how to use a selfie stick, figure it out. Selfie sticks are cool. They're perfect for this. It's a little off-putting. You'll be standing there like this. The neighbor across the street will be raking his leaves going, I don't know what that's about. These were from the last 12 months. I've been doing this for about 3 years. I don't do it every weekend, but I do it almost any time I do an open house. These are some of my social media posts. So again, you see I've got these URLs here. I was able to lift pictures out of my listings. And so I'm able to give some you know, nice pictures here, but I'm also able to give them the means to click on a link and go to my listing, okay? This one here, I've got a little quote from Longfellow. It says, into each life a little rain must fall. What the hell did he know? And I said, come on out to my open house even though it's raining. And so on. I try to make these conversational, don't be so stiff, okay? I posted an open house one time on Father's Day, and I put in my open house posting, it's Father's Day, I hope somebody will bring me something, like a cupcake or something. And one of my clients from many years ago showed up with a box of cupcakes from a local bakery with a note on it that said, Happy Father's Day. So, the other thing is, how many people are on Facebook but rarely comment? So you're on Facebook and you're checking things out, but you're really, hands high, hands high. No, higher, okay. If 3 people comment on Facebook, 30 people saw what they saw, okay? My mother-in-law is on Facebook and never comments. She could tell you what I had for breakfast if I put it on Facebook, and she could tell you within 5 minutes of me swallowing it. There are tons of people who voyeuristically follow this. We love them. They're our favorite people. Okay, so social media becomes a really important piece. So by Thursday, if the listing agent hasn't put this thing into the MLS, now you need to pick up the phone and say, hey, Bob, I need you to do this. And this is an important part of my marketing if it's not an important part of yours. By Friday, if that hasn't happened, you need to decide whether you and the agent you're hosting for should do business anymore. Okay? If you're not getting the big bang for your buck, go work with somebody else. Partner with someone else, okay? Make sure you've got your open house packet on Friday. Don't wait until Sunday morning as you're running out of church and trying to get there. The other thing is, my agents know this and they hate it. When should you set up your signs?
7 a.m.
What day?
Sunday.
Right, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Get out there before the kids are up. Get out there before the grandkids are up. Get out there before church, or synagogue, or whatever you know you're doing. Sunday morning. There's a couple reasons. I don't think it's right to people who live on corners to have to deal with open houses for 3 days prior to your open house. I just think that's bad neighboring. So I put mine out either late Saturday when it gets dark, or Sunday morning first thing. I go grab a coffee. I show up back at the house. And I'm the king because I show up with fresh bagels and everybody's happy. But Sunday morning, you want to get that done. Eat lunch before you go and take a pee. Nobody likes a hungry agent who needs the pill, okay? Put on your Sunday best. Nice tie, guys, nice tie. If you're not, look, sometimes I don't wear a tie when it's really warm out. I wear a golf shirt, but my slacks are pressed. I make sure I always have my name badge on. Arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes early. Now, this isn't something new, okay? And here's something else. How many people preview a house before the actual open house? That's a critical thing to do. The more you know about this house, the more prepared you're going to be. How many people run the comps? My agents know before they step in the front door, they should be running the comps on this house. Round numbers, $50,000 below, $50,000 above. I don't want anybody getting surprised at the open house. Well, we just came in from John's open house down the street, and they've got a jacuzzi tub, and they've got this, and they've got that, and they've got a price tag that's $52,000 higher than us. Know your competition. So know your product, know your competition. Turn on some soft music. If the owners have a nice video or audio system and you know how to use it without screwing it up, turn that on. Some people have a little thing they carry in their open house bag, which I didn't talk about. Everybody should have an open house bag, yes, with all kinds of goodies in there. And never, ever, ever eat at an open house, okay? Just because it's 1 o'clock and you didn't have time to have a sandwich, do not bring your lunch out, okay? You're not sitting at your desk. You are hosting someone's home. And rarely, if ever, do I turn on the television. Somebody said, well, what about Super Bowl Sunday? I don't usually do open houses on Super Bowl Sunday, but if you do, you're competing with the TV. So if you want to compete with the TV and the pregame show, knock yourself out. I prefer not to. Okay? Any questions? Nothing?
I have a question, actually.
Yep.
So your Facebook posts, are those mostly on your personal page or professional page or both, or?
What are you smiling at back there? Both.
We have that ongoing conversation on
Yeah,
TV.
Both.
we don't want to annoy people too much, but sometimes you still want to.
So that's a really good question, Anne-Marie. So here's the thing. I have almost 1,100 Facebook friends. I'd have 2 friends.
Right.
My wife and my mom. And that's it. I post about, and this is really a fuzzy number, between 10 and 15% of my posts are real estate related. What are the other 85%? Yeah, personal, but what? Okay, somebody said family, sports, charity.
Activities that you're involved in.
So, how do people get to know you if they've never met you? They know you by who you are. So if you and your kids worked at a food drive at your church, and your kids had a great time, and you packed 700 meals for families, post that. If you and your wife are working at an auction for a local charity that you feel strongly about, post that. If you feel strongly about a community event that took place, positively, in a positive way, no negative, no negative. There's a lot of politics going on right now. I post about politics, but I always post in a positive manner. When something good happens, I want people to know about it. I want them to see my Facebook as a place of safety and a place where they can get to know me right in here, okay? My business page, each one of my agents are an administrator on that page. So when Chris does an open house, she puts her open house on my business page. And sometimes, most of the time, she'll share it on her personal page. It's 2 for 1, right? Because who else is on our team Facebook page? Well, all my clients, and all of her clients, all of Brian's clients, and all of Susan's clients, and all of Maria's and Tony's and so on. So we, a lot of times, we'll start posting on the team page and then share it on our own page. Does that make sense? Okay.
Right, but I have my own business page, so I usually start on my business page, and then I will
So she's
share
getting 3 for 1.
on my personal page with like a more personal bent, like, because they're my friends, I'll say, hey, on my business page, it's a more formal post.
Right.
And on my personal page, it's more like, hey guys, I'm back in the hood today, come visit me, and it shares my page. And then on Rocky's page, I put it as if it's Rocky. Visit Christine Mariano, and then it gets bounced back to me again. So,
Pay attention to the pronouns when you're
Yeah.
doing that. It took me a while to get my folks to
And then-
recognize.
Yeah, and if you're an administrator on somebody's page, if you go to like something, you end up liking it as that person, and how you gotta like change that little drop-down menu and like it as the role you're supposed to be doing.
So your signs are out. You've got your Sunday best on, you've got your name tag, you've got all your paperwork, and you're good to go. It's showtime. So everybody's got their own open house style. Remember our guy from a few years ago, Mr. Bean? That's his open house face. Mine's not. Mine's different than that. First impressions are keenly important. They're super, super important. Make a good first impression. And remember, an open house is a process, not an event. It doesn't happen Sunday 1 to 4 and then it's done. Okay? It's not an event, it's a process. Who saw the movie Groundhog Day? Remember who Ned Ryerson was? Who was Ned Ryerson?
Insurance sales.
Yeah, but what kind of insurance salesman? A pain in the ass.
Not-
Right? Every time Bill Murray comes out, hey, it's Ned Ryerson, and he does this whole deal. Don't do that. Don't be Ned, okay? When you go to an open house, I want to do a little role play for a second here. So, forget everything that's happened up until this moment, and I want you to think in this term specifically. You live in a utopian society, okay? Everything you have as a real estate agent is perfect. You have plenty of food and water, you have a great house, beautiful family, you've got a nice car to drive, you've got everything that you need. And now it's Sunday morning and you're doing your open house. Everybody got that picture? So you've got the perfect life. Whether you sell this house or not, it doesn't matter. Now you show up at the open house, Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. Mary and John and their little 8-year-old and their little 5-year-old show up at the open house, they ring the doorbell. You greet them and what do you say?
Welcome.
It's good, it's a good start. And then you drool or you,
No, I say welcome, I put my hand out, I say, I meet them at the door, I put my hand out, I say, welcome, come on in, I'm Christine Mariano. If I can have you come into the kitchen and sign in, well, I'd love to show you around the house, or, you know, tell you about the house.
okay? So you've done that, they've signed in, it's very cordial, everybody's smiling. Now what?
About their kid.
Okay? Bing, 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 bing. Actually, that gets you a prize. You talk about their kids. You talk about their kids. What else do you talk about?
Ask them where they're from, or from the
Yeah,
area,
from the area.
local.
Okay, now you're prying a little bit.
Gently.
Gently. What I'm trying to get at is this. I've been doing this 20 years, I've never sold a house. The house sells itself. I'm just a conduit. Okay? When somebody comes to my open house, I want information from them. There's no question about it. But I want to do it to help them, not to help me. And that's the whole point of this. In a utopian society, I don't need anything. And believe it or not, I think some days I live as close to a utopian society as I may ever see in this life. And so I don't need anything from them, but I want to help them. And if I want to help them, the only way I can help them is to ask them questions. How many of you have been to the doctor recently? Doctor says to you, Scott, how many drinks do you have every day? And you go, well, you know, doc, I mean, you know, every day, I mean, or just Monday, you know. Nobody wants to answer that question because it's prying, okay? But at some point, your doctor doesn't ask that to embarrass you, right? He's a consultant. He's asking that to help you. So when you ask questions, if you truly get this, ask questions that are designed to help them. I've said to people, this is my style, not yours, I don't bite. Not anymore. I talk to them. Now, a couple of things. So somebody signs in, Mary and Tom Jones, and they sign in, and they're not working with a realtor, and if you come to my open house, you have to give me one point of contact. If you can't, you don't get any further than the front door. I tell my sellers that. My sellers are okay with that. I'm okay with it. It's not a game. I'm working here. If you, as an open house visitor, can't respect that, you don't need to see the house. You get a beautiful fact sheet, and I send you on your way. So Mary and Tom Jones came in, and they put an almost illegible email address down. It's okay. They fit the criteria. Before they leave, I will know where they live. How? Without asking them.
They'll tell you.
Maybe. Maybe. They have kids. Did I mention this couple has kids?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah,
so we're-
or they're
it's-
small.
Yeah, what school do you go to? Do you like your teacher? What school do you go to? Oh, Miss Jones, what school is she at? Oh, she's at, the Mercerville School. Oh, okay. So I now know that with their address and the fact that they live in 08619, I can go to the tax records and look them up. Okay, we're gonna get a little deeper in this. You've made it to 4 p.m. Your open house is over. You've asked all these great questions. You're free. But you're not, right? So you're not free. You got a little bit of work to do. Does everybody know our guy Bill Lombard from Office Space? All the young people know that. I see Laurie shaking her head. So there's a movie, Office Space, and he was I won't use the word, but he was the bad boss. And he would always say to them, just as they were getting ready to leave, yeah, if you could do these last few things before calling it a day, yeah, that would be great. And then he'd walk away and go home. So before you leave your open house, let's talk about what you need to do before you can call it a day. Annotate the open house sheet. Everybody got one of my open house sheets? Okay. On the front of that open house sheet, if you have an open house bag, and you should, like I do, take a red marker and write your name next to all the leads that you're going to follow up with. Okay? That tells the listing agent that anything that's not next to your name should have a realtor's name next to it, and he can follow up with that. The second thing you do, if you aren't doing this during the open house, and this is a trick I learned a long time ago, is every time somebody comes into that open house, I'm collecting facts, okay? The older I get, the more forgetful I get. When they leave, I run back into the kitchen, I grab my pen and I write back, Mary and John, they live in Hamilton. They have 2 kids, Mike and Annie. They drove a Prius. They're really, the environment's really important. Anything I glean from our conversation, I write on the back of my open house sheet. Okay. So before you leave, annotate your open house sheet with that type of information. I have to tell you to turn off all the lights and make sure nobody peed on the toilet seat. Okay. Return the home to the condition it was in when you arrived. So if you open windows, close them. If you close windows, open them. Pick up all your open house signs. I lately, before I go out, will do a Google Maps of where I'm doing an open house. I'll figure out where my signs go. I'll print the map out, I'll put a little red dot there. Like I said, I'm getting a little forgetful. I don't want to miss one of my signs. And then this turns into a nightmare, having your name on something when somebody calls up and says, hey buddy, when the hell are you going to get your sign off my front lawn? Pick up all your signs, okay? I see other brokers' signs laying in the curb, being run over. Don't do that. Create a Facebook post if someone brings you cupcakes. So my friends who brought me cupcakes, we took a selfie. I went out, got my selfie stick, we took a selfie with them and the kids and the cupcake box. And, it's optional. If somebody stopped at your open house that maybe wasn't necessarily a buyer, but somebody you haven't seen in a while, maybe a client, maybe somebody local that other people know, it's a great way to take a selfie in front of your Weidel sign, okay? It's just a way to show that you're a human being and that you have friends, and I know most of you do. If you brought an open house sheet and a laptop, now would be a good time to take them out. For those of you who go on listing appointments, and my people get tired of hearing this, I quote Vince Lombardi all the time. And I'm going to give you a quote that I use every time somebody says, well, I'd like to start my price on my house high, and then hopefully we'll get that, but if not, then we'll have to talk about it. And I would say to them, well, we can sell your house for that price. Really? Yeah, we can sell your house. You know what Vince Lombardi used to say? We would win every football game if we didn't run out of time. Now, I may have your house in the market for 2 or 3 years, but I will get you that price. 2 or 3 years? No. Vince Lombardi has a treasure trove of great sales and marketing quotes. So if you're not familiar with him, look him up. He is the man when it comes to people who do what we do. Okay. This is what I call my forensic follow-up, otherwise known as prospect research. And Scott and I had a conversation about this, and he said, yeah, I'd like you to talk about that. So here I am to talk about it. Typically, before the internet, so I started in real estate before the internet. I know I don't look that old, but I am. When you got an open house sheet like this, everybody that gave you a physical address, in my mind, got a handwritten note. Everybody that gave you a phone number got a phone call, and nobody had email. Okay. So which would you do? Would you do a phone call or the handwritten note?
Handwritten note.
Wrong, do them both. Do them both. Do them both. If they give you an email address, do that too. But here's the thing. Sometimes you get the name, and the only way you know it's their name is because they've actually spoken it to you. And you get an address that looks like hieroglyphics, and you don't know what it is. That's where this comes in. Okay. Does anybody have well, let's do mine, and then we'll do one if somebody's got one. Okay. So this is my open house registry, and I know you can't see this. This is just for the sampling. This open house was on September 11th, 2016, so a little over a year ago. Mike and Melissa, we'll forget their last name, signed into my open house. Never met them before. Okay? They gave me their address. Can anybody read that? Because I couldn't. Yes. Okay. Took me a while. And I got an email address that was unrecognizable. Okay. And this is my favorite part. See this blank line? This says, if you're working with a realtor, please provide that realtor's name. That's blank. These are my favorite ones. Okay. I started a dialogue with them on September 12th. What's that?
These are Marinos.
Yeah. I started a dialogue with them on September 12th, 2016, so a year ago. How do you think I contacted them?
Tax records? Did you get last name?
Tax records was one. I eventually got their last name. When I went to the tax records, I found that it wasn't Messino, but Marino. Okay. I'll tell you how in a minute. Here's what happened. I was able to turn this into this in a year. So I was able to turn this mess into this in a year. Everybody that comes to my open house, I Google stalk on Facebook. You go to Facebook and you search them out. But you have to go to the tax records first to make sure you're spelling their name right, okay? So I went to the tax records and I found Mike Marino. How many Mike Marinos do you think there are?
A lot.
Lots, lots. So I said, Mike Marino, Hamilton. Well, now there were two, him and his dad. And how did I know that? Because Mike's profile picture matched Mike, the guy who came to my open house. So I sent Mike this email. I'll read it to you. It says, actually, I won't read it to you without these. It says, hey, Mike. Just wanted to check in and see if you guys got my note. So I'd written him a handwritten note. I'd love to help you if you're considering buying or selling a home in the near future. If you're not ready, okay, so remember, I'm consulting here. If you're not ready, let's stay in touch. Use me as a resource until you are ready. Have a great day. Does anybody find that too prying? On 9/21, so that was on the 12th. Almost 2 weeks later, Mike says, hey, Rock, we're prepping our house currently, and honestly, you're on a very short list of agents we are considering. I met him once, but I made that list, okay? We really enjoyed the trip through the home on Lyons. That was the house I met them at. And we were interested on another house on 85 Robin. I'm hoping to finish a lot of our personal prep this weekend, and we'll be in contact with you soon. Am I on the short list, or am I on the list and nobody else is on the list?
You're on the list.
I'm on the list. So we had a couple of other little things, and he asked me about this house, I told him it was active O, and then he says, Rocky, now I was on the list, right? So a couple days later, we'll be reaching out to you next week about possibly putting our house up for sale. Now, I've never spoken to him since the open house, not a word, okay? Do I reach out to you through email, office, phone, or from the website? And of course, I gave him my cell phone number. Sounds good, talk soon. And then you can see it says, hey, Rock, I'm leaving work around noon today. Give me a call or text me on my cell. Boom. Okay? So, that was September 11th to October 31st. 45 days. What happens to most real estate agents who follow up with open house leads in 45 days? They've done 3 other open houses and forget about him. Mike was on my calendar. He's on my marketing calendar. Everybody that I contact who contacts me back is on my marketing calendar. Don't give him a call, send him a note and go, well, he's not interested, and move on to the next guy. When I was a young realtor and I first started doing this, you would just send all your notes out, make all your phone calls, and move on to the next open house. And I guarantee you that your success rate is going to be really, really thin. I am right now working with a young couple who came to an open house 3 months ago. I tried, and they're young, they're in their mid to late 20s, and I tried the Facebook thing. I looked, and so we're gonna go into this more, but when you look at their Facebook page, the last post that was on there was from like a year ago. They're not regulars on Facebook. So, I sent them an email. I got nothing. Then I sent them another email. I got nothing. So what do you think I did then? I didn't have the phone number. I sent them another email. It was my last one. And I said, you know, this house just came on the market. It's you know, I know you guys have been looking for a while. And they have an agent, but they hate their agent. They will buy a house from me this coming spring. They just don't know it yet.
So, Rocky, quick question. When you stalk them on Facebook, do you actually send them like a friend invite? You want to friend them?
No,
you're
no.
just stalking.
Nope.
Messenger. That's a
Messenger.
That's Facebook.
That's Facebook Messenger. It's just like sending them an email.
Okay, all right. You're not friending them, not getting anywhere. Okay.
So there is another paper here. This one is really important. Don't lose this, because this is what we do. This is the secret sauce. I've never shared this with anybody. I don't want to be dramatic. My guys know how it works, mostly. This is a step-by-step of what we do. What I do. Do we have a spare one? Let me grab one. So it's not enough to just send a note. When I send a note, somebody tell me, what's your typical note? Chris, I mean, not to keep picking on you, but you're my straight man today.
My note says, you know, it was great meeting you yesterday at the open house at 50 Waverly.
Good.
You know, I enjoyed meeting you and your wife and the kids. I always, if there's any personal,
Right.
and then if there's any connection that we've made, you know, and I said, I know we had, I enjoyed our conversation about, this is usually more my email, but I enjoyed our conversation about the house, and I look forward to, you know, I'd love to be able to help you with your
5 sentences?
follow-up, yeah.
5 sentences.
Please consider me a
Right.
resource.
It's not the Magna Carta.
Right.
You know, don't be afraid to put your heart on your sleeve and say, you know what, I'd really love to help you guys find your next home.
Right.
It's honest, right? Let me step out of that for a minute. When I was training Alan Deutsch, who's recently retired from my team, Alan came from the 3 Martini Lunch Group. So anybody here remembers back in the 70s and early 80s, if you were in commercial sales, everything got done over the 3 martini lunch. And Alan was all about closing the deal. Every conversation was, we have to close, we have to give a close, we gotta close, we gotta close. That's what everybody was taught. They weren't taught to be consultative. And Alan was doing an open house, as do all my new agents, and we sat there and I said, here, you take the next one. So a young couple walked in and he was very cordial to them and very polite. And he said, have you gotten a mortgage pre-approved? Right? Everybody wants to make sure we have a mortgage. Have you gotten a mortgage pre-approved? And at that time, the market was really hot, so a lot of people at open houses were looking for listings. Do you have a home to sell? So he got all done, and he said, so how do you think I did? I said, there's room for improvement. He said, what do you mean? And I said, there are other ways to get to that information without putting somebody on the defensive. So I can flatter you by saying to you, do you need help with the mortgage, or are you guys going to be paying cash? That's flattering, right? You think I can afford to pay cash, right? With younger couples, say, are you renting a home right now? Because people who rent homes are in a much better position to buy than people who don't. They say, no, we own our home. Oh, well, that's great, because owning a home means you've got a nest egg. So there's a way to get to information in a consultative fashion without getting the mallet out and trying to squeeze information out of people. This is that's the undercurrent of everything that we do, okay? Everybody's got this forensic follow-up. Let's take it one by one. I think the first and most important thing is that you can decipher all the information on your open house sheet, okay? So sit there, don't be embarrassed. I have one on my desk drawer, I have a magnifying glass. So I put my glasses on, I get my magnifying glass out, and I try to figure it out. The next thing I will do is, I will start a Word doc. Now, this is just essentially the equivalent of a piece of lined paper with me to scribble notes. I put it on a Word doc because we're paperless, okay? But if you're not paperless and you like to write stuff down, then get out a pad of paper and write down Mary and Bob Jones and take all the information that you have from them that you can read off your open house sheet and start a document while you're doing your follow-up. This is way more involved than just taking this list and sending everybody a note, making a phone call, and going on to your next week's list. Our goal, if you've got, so on this list I've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 3 people who did not put an agent's name. One of them should be buying a house with you, okay? Maybe not, but we're gonna work on it. We're gonna start by checking their physical address. We're gonna go into Trend. Everybody knows how to use Trend, or if you're in Garden State, we're gonna use Garden State, and we're gonna pull their physical address. If their physical address doesn't come up, a couple things could be. You either read it wrong, they lied to you, or they live in some type of an apartment or complex that's not on the tax records. So what do you do then? If you can't find them in Trend? Google Maps. Google Maps. Find their address on Google Maps. Then do a street level search and see, when you go into Google Maps, is it an apartment building? If it's an apartment building, you know they're renters. Cha-ching, nothing to sell, that means they're ready to buy, okay? Google time. Google time is my favorite time. When I get back from my open house, this is my Monday morning. I love Mondays. Monday's my favorite day of the week. Monday is when I get to Google stalk all these people. So the first thing I do is I search their phone number. Now this rarely leads to any usable data, but if you get somebody, let's say you're doing open houses at an active adult community, where you've got people who are 55 and older. Some of them will give you their landlines because they actually have them. A landline on Google is still pretty traceable, okay? So if you've got a landline, drop that into Google. Sometimes when you do a Google search of their phone number, their company comes up. Not a terribly bad thing, because then it tells you where they work. And now you have another piece of information to put on your paper. So that you Google the phone number, and the phone number comes up and it says IBM. So you know John works for IBM. That's great. We're going to use that later. You're going to Google their phone number. You're going to Google their address. You're going to Google their name. You're going to Google their name and their phone number. You're going to Google their name and their address. You're going to Google their name and their address and their phone number. And you're going to keep picking at it until you get information. And I'm going to do this for somebody that's going to, and it's going to surprise you. Okay. You can find out things by Googling their email address. Is anybody in here a runner? you know, like runs in local road races? Nobody? Me neither, so don't feel bad. My wife's a runner, so she runs in the, I think it's called the Hopewell Challenge and so on. The Hopewell Challenge, when you run in that race and they put your race stats up, they put them up with your email address. If you search my wife's email address, now she hasn't run in a while, but if you search her email address, there's a PDF somewhere on the internet with her email address that says she came in, you know, 13th in her age group. You say, well, how does that help me? How does it help you? She runs. She's health conscious. She likes to run. The house you've listed is right near Mercer County Park. They've got a great jogging path in Mercer County Park. Okay? Phone number, address, email. Another little trick, if you have a Gmail account, is to add that person temporarily into your contacts with their email address. Why would you do that?
Their profile pops up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's say I added your Chris Mariano 314 at Gmail, right?
Close enough.
Okay. And I add Chris to my Google contacts. She's not there before. And when I add her in, all of a sudden her profile picture pops up because Chris has a Google Plus, which is like a Facebook account on Google that nobody ever uses. But it's a Google Plus account. And you can go on to Chris's Google Plus account, and maybe Chris posted stuff 10 years ago in there, that's fine. But we may be able to find out that she's got 3 dogs and a cat and so on. You just add that to your list, okay? You might also get their spouse's name, okay? You wanna, once you've done all of this for the person who signed in, then you wanna do it all over again for their spouse, okay? Social media time. This is really my favorite part. There's so much stuff on the internet about you that you don't even know. And when I can't find something about someone who's come to my open house, one of 2 things. They're either in the witness protection program or they don't own a computer. But I can find almost anything on anybody. Now, I can't find everything, and sometimes I can't find enough. But this is another way. So I go into social media and I go, let's reopen my Facebook. Don't look at any of my open windows, video poker or any of that other stuff. So you see the search bar up here? Let's use Susan Stringfellow. So you see I've got, you can see this, I've got Susan Stringfellow here, and I've got Susan Stringfellow, the realtor, here. Hi, Susan. And I got her here. Okay, so I found Susan. Nice, right? Now let's go, but this doesn't really tell me anything about Susan that I want. And this is slow, so I'll close this. Let's try it again. So here's the real Susan Stringfellow. Notice it still says Weidel Real Estate on where she works.
Wait, it's you and not me.
So these are all the things that Susan has posted. Here's her new listing. Okay, that's her open house post. Next time she does this, there'll be a selfie. Somebody's dog, something about motherhood. So what do I know? Susan's a mom, right? And not only is she a mom, but I know her by this post that her daughter's already a grown-up, right? So you have to pay attention. All these little nuggets go on here. Here's so I did this last night, and I'm not doing this to embarrass anybody. So you should all be worried. And I did this as a fluke last night. Some people don't. Some people want, right? My kids always, when I talk to my adult kids, I always say, well, I looked it up on the Google, and it always makes them laugh. That's what my mother says. There are people, and rightfully so, who don't want a lot of information about them on the internet. They want to maintain a certain semblance of privacy. And you can't blame them, right? So you're the owner of a company or the owner's son and you want to do this. Now, let's say Rich, Everybody knows Rich, and I know Rich wouldn't be mad if you saw me do this, because I'm looking for training purposes. Let's say Rich came to your open house, and you're one of the 3 people in Mercer County who've never heard of the Weidel family, okay? And you wanted to know more about him, so he signed in his name, and during the open house, you were talking about one of his passions, which is love. And so, what's the first thing that comes up? The polo party for Weidel. And we can go there and we can see all the pictures and have a great time. Where did Rich go to school? This is where he's going to be mad. So we know that our client here, our new client, went to Cornell and he played polo. Okay? What else do we know? If we dug a little deeper, we know when he graduated.
Right.
We also know that he went to the Hun School. Do you see where I'm going with this? Okay, why do I need to, so let's break this all down. Why do I need to know all this information about a prospective buyer?
You want to find common ground?
That's exactly what you want to do. Here, you get a selfie stick too.
Woo-hoo!
That's exactly what you want to do. The goal is finding common ground. This is all about commonality. There's a really great movie, if you ever get a chance to rent it or see it or stream it. It's called I Am. Has anybody seen or heard of this? Judy's shaking her head. It's about a guy, his name is Tommy, I may say his name wrong, Shadyak. And Tommy was an insider in the Hollywood scene. And Tommy was he hit by a car? Something happened, something significant happened to him that put him in a coma. And he was near death. And when he came out of it, he spent, let me give Rich a break here. When he came out of it, he spent the first few months during his convalescence trying to figure out what the meaning of life is. And one of the things, and this is one of my most favorite videos I've ever seen. It's about 45 minutes long. One of the things he basically found out by traveling the world and speaking to religious people and natives and just people through all corners of the globe was that we're all interrelated and interconnected. And I believe that. I think that if I sat down with each of you and we dug deep enough, we'd find a commonality on something. That's really what I want you to do. I want you to take this sheet and I want you to go through and I want you to find commonality. If you look, I have on here politics, food, religion, sports teams, activities. The kill shot is, do you have any friends in common? So now when you pull up someone and all of a sudden you look, let me see if I can do this real quick for you. Let's pull up, let's see here. Let's pull up Mike Marino. If you look at Mike's profile, you see this here? 7 mutual friends. Now, my next door neighbor and his wife was on my real estate team. That's a good mutual friend to have. These 2 people live in my neighborhood. His mom. So I want to go back to my PowerPoint for a minute. Remember I said to you, I'm going to tell you how I turned that open house lead. Okay. I found the Marinos. I found some common ground. I made some messages back and forth with Mike. The first thing they wanted to do was go look at houses. Were they ready to buy a house with their house not being on the market?
No.
How many people would show them a house? It's okay to say no. Show them a house. Show them a couple. Spend one afternoon with them. You can afford the time. You can invest it in somebody who you've now started to cultivate. You're a consultant. Sometimes consultants lose money. So I showed them a group of houses, and during our conversation, I said to them, you know, it's really difficult to be able to buy a house unless you sell yours, unless you're making a cash purchase or don't need the proceeds from your house to buy your next house. No, we definitely need to do it. We definitely want to get it on the market right now. Can you come over tonight? Yeah, I'll come over tonight. So I listed their house on 50 Sherwood, an agent from DHH, whatever they are, sold it. And then one of my neighbors called me up and said, hey, we're getting ready to put our 4-bedroom colonial on the market. We want you to list it, but we're not gonna sell it till next year. I said, hey, you know, I got this really nice family in town who's looking for a 4-bedroom colonial. Would you like to sell it this year if you didn't have to do all the staging stuff we talked about? Yeah. So I went over there, I listed the property, I sold the property. So I got both sides of a $390,000 transaction. Full disclosure here, I gave the seller a discount on the commission because how much money did I have in marketing this property? Zero. His parents went out looking at houses with them. Mike's parents were out looking at houses with us. They were out, actually Chris took them out once, and I think Brian took them out once when I was away. Did you take the Marinos out once?
No, I met him at an open house.
Oh, you met him at an open house. And they said, hey, when you're done with the kids, we need to list our house and buy another. I was like, okay, let's put you on my calendar. It's very nonchalant. They did not need to sell their house, so they bought this house, and I've currently got this house on the market, and I'm expecting to get an offer on this. When you add this up, it's like $1.5 million from one open house. So let me tie it all together. There are people who look at what I said and said, oh my God, this is really involved. You're gonna chase these people, you're gonna do this, you're gonna Google stalk. You could spend like an hour looking for one person. I'm worth $30,000 an hour, I think. That's about what you get here, give or take. We're worth 30 grand. I think that's a good prospect, okay? Even if we average it, and there were, on their open house sheet, there were 4 other people, so that was 4 hours. It's still a pretty good salary, wouldn't you agree? I think that what we have to understand is that when we're following up with these things, that we really need to maintain that nature of that consultative nature. I'm here to help them, and in the process, that's how I make money. Anybody have any questions about that?
I have another question.
Yes.
Earlier on, when you spoke of the open house and the clients, potential clients walking in, and you have this hard and fast rule about your sign-in sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever played with it and had the sign-in sheet right up front and basically walked around with them, connected with them, not encouraged them to sign the sign-up sheet?
I wouldn't say that's a bad thing to do. I don't do it that way.
So much more from them, so much more. If they come to you and say, we need to sign in, they give you what you need, maybe you get an appointment, and if it's not gelling as they attempt to walk out, you say, oh, sorry, I forgot, then you get their information.
Like I said, there's more than one way to do this. I don't, it's not my style, but I don't think it's a bad style. It's certainly something that if you're comfortable with that, I am definitely not a pushy guy. And that is definitely a consultative way to approach it. What I want to do is I want to separate the wheat from the chaff, right up front. I mean, if somebody says, oh, you know what, we don't want to sign in, we live across the street from the Smiths and we'd rather they didn't know we were here. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, you're the first people I'm going to tell them that we came to their open house. And so the ridiculous nature of that, but yeah, you could do it that way. I will say this, I've become a little jaded over the years. I'm put off by people who want to jerk me around. I mean, but that's definitely a way to go, and I wouldn't say you should stop doing it if that's the way you do it. If it works for you, I think I think it's great. My biggest fear is that if somebody else walks in, now I've got these free roaming people that I don't have a tether on.
Right.
Okay?
What's your language when somebody doesn't want to give you contact information? You said before you give them a flyer.
So let's say this is my home flyer, and I say, look, you know what? I promised my homeowner that when I held their open house open and invited the general public in, that I would at least get some type of contact information for the people who toured their home. And I said, if you don't want to sign in, I understand, but I can't invite you to tour the home, but I would like you to have a fact sheet with all the details on it. And if you'd like to come back at another time, I'd be happy to give you a private tour.
That's great.
Bales.
Rocky,
Mhm.
as much as I, think it is, I'm a very, I'm a soft approach as well.
Mhm.
I make them sign in. And the reason being is because if there's something stolen out of the property or whatever, I tell them it's for their protection. I said, we need to know, we need to see who's in the home, the homeowner needs to know. If you don't want me to call you, please tell me you're working with a realtor, and that's fine.
Right.
But I do make them sign in, because the people that don't sign in, there is a suspicion to that. Because if they say, please don't call me, I'm not gonna call them. Right, I'm right on there, please don't call them.
So,
But they wanna see the home, they're the neighbor, I say you have to, for a liability standpoint, the homeowners need to know who is through their home. I won't call you if they're really that insistent, but if they say no, we're not giving you your information, I do the same thing, I say, then I'm very sorry, but I try to keep consistency, because I don't wanna allow one person to come in that I didn't let sign in, the next person I made sign in, so I
So,
think that's.
I agree with that. I agree with like 99% of it. So one other thing we all do is, and does anybody else do this? So as soon as I walk into the open house, I put Susan Baker's name in here.
I put
Okay.
Susan Byer.
All right, and everybody's got their own Susan or their own Mike or their, okay, and I fill everything in because monkey see, monkey do.
Right.
Okay. To get back to your point, when they ask me not to call them, I still contact them. I may not call them, but I will definitely send them a handwritten note, and I will definitely, if I have an email address, and I
No
will
one ever
definitely
says that,
Google
though.
stalk them, and I will do all that other stuff, because I'm still looking for that point of commonality, and I've had it happen where that point of commonality is like, oh my God, you're so-and-so's sister? And they go, oh, and then all of a sudden, boom, I've got a client. So I wouldn't dismiss them completely, but I would honor the fact that I wouldn't call them.
But the soft point is that when they feel that you say, I won't call you.
Yeah.
Never
I
say,
agree.
don't call me, never,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. There's also one other thing, and I think this is an important piece that kind of ties into that. We have to be careful about letting people pass. What do I mean by that? How many people come to your open house and you say, oh yeah, we're working with an agent, they write yes. No, yes isn't, no. And I said, who's your agent? Oh, he's with Weicker. I said, okay. You know what, I can't remember which Weicker. That's fine, what's his first name? Tim, Tom, Tim, Mike. Do you think I call those people directly?
Yes.
Yeah, every time, every time, every time. Look, is there any doubt with any other real estate agent in this room that if somebody was working with me, they would forget my name? And forget that my name is Rocky, right? If they can't remember their agent's name, does he or she really have a connection to them?
no.
Right. Or did they get the name off of a cart at the Acme? Okay, and they walk around with Mike Jones's name, and every time they sign in, they say, well, we're working with Mike Jones. Follow your instincts. Having said that, we honor, and I do mean honor, any co-broker's name that comes in. If I see a name, and on that one open house sheet, I think it's a Maria Ramboski, I know Maria, I used to work with her at Coldwell Banker years and years ago, I will call Maria first. Now, I'm not giving Maria everything. I'll say, Maria, oh, your clients came by to my 3 Lions Road this afternoon. Oh, who was it? And I will not give her the last name. I'll say Mike and Mary. Oh, yeah, Mike and Mary Jones. Yeah, and I let it go. And then I ask her to give me feedback. But I think we just need to be really deliberate. It's part of a series of complex systems and planning that helps us get clients. I mean, I know that there's a lot of people who get frustrated when you do an open house, and 12 names come on the piece of paper and 10 of them are working with agents. I'm going to tell you 8 of them are working with agents. Okay? You have to be sharp, you have to pay attention, you have to do a little bit of research. Okay? Any other questions?
Are you an advocate of bringing MLS printout sheets of other homes for sale?
I am, just don't give them out.
Yeah, right, just okay.
So the short answer is yes. The long answer goes back to signs. So if you're a real estate agent and you don't have your own signs, you should get them. If you're a real estate agent, you don't have a laptop computer or an iPad, you should get that. If you're a real estate agent and you don't have, what do they call it, Chris? Where you can, I'll tell you.
Phone?
personal hotspot. Does everybody know what a personal hotspot is? It enables you to get on the internet. When I go to my open houses, I have my laptop set up and it's hooked to my internet through my phone so that my office is with me. You should have those things. Those are important things. Think of my dad walking around with, here was a guy who had, in 1976, had 7 kids and had somewhere in the neighborhood in 1976 of about $5,000 worth of tools. And everywhere he went to work, he brought those tools with him, and that's why they hired him, for what he knew and for what he had in his toolbox. You need to have some of these things. I have, and this is just for people who like tech, I have a second laptop that is a Google Chromebook that I adore. I bought it at Costco for $250. This is actually my laptop from home. This is the one that's got the keys to the kingdom. Well, my Google Chromebook has the keys to the kingdom, but it's useless without the internet. So it's essentially just a portal to the internet. When I travel, I take it because it's this thin. And when I go on every one of my listing appointments and use Present, does everybody use Present when they go on a listing? You should, okay? When I use Present, I use it and I just like I'm doing here, I click, click, click. I'm going through my Present. Here it is. It sits on the table. Everybody can see it. It's pretty and so on. That's one of the tools that I added to my arsenal this year. It's a cheap one. It's cheaper than any iPad. But use whatever technology that you're comfortable with. I have these big meat hooks, so when I had the iPad, I was going across and it was, sugar bowls were flying and everything else. Now that I've got my Chromebook, it's a bigger screen and I can sit back with my mouse and the couple that I'm working with can focus on that. So that's just something to investigate. If you are not using storage on Moxie has like storage for clients and contacts, right, Scott? Yeah. You're not using Moxie Engage, that's right. You're not using that, and you're not using, Chris, you use Google Drive. You're not using Dropbox, and you're not using Carbonite. Then don't buy a Chromebook, because a Chromebook's a waste of money. You have to. The Chromebook is essentially your portal into your online storage. My team, this is funny because I'm going to send you guys out here with 20 pounds of paper. My team is paperless. The reason I printed that out is because every time I do one of these things, somebody says, oh, can I get a copy of this? Can I get a copy of that? We are paperless. Matter of fact, to the point where Claire and I have an office in my home, and we have one filing cabinet drawer, and it's half full. I mean, I was at an open house, and somebody said, oh, you sold the house around the corner from us. We live on Regina Avenue. And I said, oh, yeah, I sold 114 Regina. Geez, what did that sell for? I said, oh, it was a couple years ago. Hang on. I go to my Dropbox, I pull up the contract, I look at it, and I say, oh, it sold for $187,000. They closed on October 15, 2010. I love these tools. I'm the real estate agent who shows up at closings without a file of any kind. I show up with this. You show up with this. You show up with this. You show up with this.
Rocky, one of the important things that you trained us to do, though, is to put your entire real estate file, whatever your file is, in your hard drive, into your Dropbox, into your Google Drive, so you're not having to remember to back it up.
Do I have a few minutes? You guys
my file is, my whole real estate folder is on Google Drive. I don't have to think about it, and it syncs. So if I'm working on my computer at home, it syncs to my Google Drive. If I'm on the road, so it's always current. It syncs, and that's huge, because if you have to think about, I gotta put this in my Dropbox, I gotta put it in my Google Drive, you won't do it.
So let's wrap this up. I'll do that, and then if anybody has any questions, I'll hang back. So to put a pin in this, does anybody have any more questions?
I had a comment.
Okay.
Now, something I've done recently, and I've actually had success with it. I had somebody come to an open house, and they seemed hesitant about the house I was showing. It was my listing. And so what I do is I get to know, like you say, you've got to have a feel for what kind of person's in front of you. And I started asking a question about, well, how would you feel if you really are looking, if I would set you up? First I also asked, where did you see this? Was it Realtor.com, Zillow? And I explained that, some of those listings aren't the most updated listings. And if you're interested, I would gladly set you up on MLS Trend, And, you know, and I won't bother you if you really don't wanna bother, you know, and it'll get sent out to you. And I just asked it if, you know, if you see something, give me a call. Well, what this does is it lets you also keep in contact with them, because every time anything's sent to them, you see it. And so you could always follow up. And actually, I did. All of a sudden, I had the one come back to me and said, I don't know if you remember me, but 3 months ago, I was in a different house. Can we see these houses? And in the end, I sold them actually my list.
So I love that idea. So let's see, what do I have left? I have a tape measure. I love that idea. Usually that idea I use.
Thank you. I'll leave it though.
That's it. Usually I'll use that when I've kind of hit a brick wall after I've really tried everything else.
I'm finding it very successful.
Yeah,
I'm keeping in touch with everybody.
Yeah.
And they're looking.
Right.
You know, they're definitely looking at everything.
I do like that idea. I have, so one of my clients, her name is Melissa Jones, came to an open house and essentially said to me, I'm not really ready to buy, but I'm kind of looking around and this is what I'm looking for and so on and so on. And I said, oh, okay. And she said, I really, you know, I've got some personal things and it's going to be at least a couple of years before I'm ready to buy. And I said, well, why don't I do this? Why don't I send you some information on the houses in your neighborhood so you can kind of keep track of what they're selling for. And let's stay in touch. And I'm ashamed to admit this next part. I completely forgot that.
Oh, I know.
I completely forgot that. 3 years later, I get a phone call from Melissa Mahoney. And she tells me we met at an open house. Melissa Mahoney. And my memory for names is, she said, well, I was Melissa Jones, and she said, Bob and I met, we got married, blah, 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 and now we're looking to buy a house. And you've been so kind to stay in touch with me for the last 3 years. Okay. So I like that idea. I want you to be more proactive, though. I want you to turn leads into clients quickly. But if you can't, like Melissa Jones, and it's a great thing to do. And Brian and I have talked about that before. You know, Brian was struggling with a few things, and I said, look, at worst case scenario, put them on a drip from Trent. We have something called our First Step Home Buyers Questionnaire that we use with everybody. And it's something that my team and I created about 8 years ago. And so when I meet someone, anyone, whether they're buying their first house or their 11th house, I use this word internally, I would never use it, we require them to come into the office for a First Step Home Buyers Counseling session. And we, at that point, introduced them to Chris Reef and Princeton Mortgage. We introduced them to the attorneys and all of the real estate disclosures, want to get those out of the way, the CIS form and everything. And we prefaced that by saying the reason we're doing this is let's get all the, excuse my French, but crap out of the way. Let's get all the paperwork out of the way. Now let's have a conversation about what you need. I could ask you, when we're standing at the bumper of my car and I'm picking up my open house signs, I am not going to find out from that 5-minute conversation who you are and what you want, okay? I want to know where you work, where you live, where your parents live, where your family lives, what kinds of things you do now that are important to you geographically. I want to know those things, and people want to tell me. When we put this together, Claudia Ryan, who's one of my top producers and one of my good friends, said to me, there's too many questions on it. People don't want to answer all these questions, right? Wrong. People are craving someone to ask them what they want. Okay. So anyway, remember, it's a process, not an event. The open house isn't over at 4 o'clock on Sunday. Run the race, run it slow, be methodical, follow your processes. Don't do what I do just because I do it. Do your thing. I found this quote, I love it. Oh, where is he? Come on. I stopped thinking the way other people think a long time ago. You gotta think like you think. Think about that. Don't think like me. Don't take all this stuff and just do what I do. Do what you think makes sense. Years ago when I first got my real estate license, I was in Princeton Junction and Coldwell Banker was one of the top offices in Mercer County at that point. And I was a real estate agent for a year. And I got this idea. I said to myself, you know what I'm gonna do this year? Right before Halloween, like in September, I'm gonna go to Sam's Club and I'm gonna buy the big candy bars. You know, the ones that you wanted when you were a kid and nobody gave out. And I went out and I bought $2,000 worth of candy. And on those candy bars, my kids and I sat in my kitchen for 3 or 4 hours with a couple of pizzas, and we put little stickers on them that said, "Happy Halloween from your neighborhood realtor." And then I contacted the people that I was closest to in my farm, in the neighborhood that I live in, and said, "Hey, how about I save you 15, 20 bucks this year and buy your Halloween candy?" They said, "What's the catch?" And I said, "Well, it's got labels on it that says, you know, Happy Halloween to you." "That's it? Yeah, I'll take it." And boom. And so the first year I was in the real estate business, we gave out 1,000 candy bars, more than that. And one of the people who got a candy bar called the Hamilton office because I live in Hamilton, but he didn't realize that I wasn't in the Coleman Bank area, and berated the manager and said to him, "I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you're using children for commerce." And so he called me and he related this to me, and I thought, "Oh crap." And he said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're not upset, are you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm upset." He goes, "Why are you upset?" He said, "The fact that she calls means that people are seeing this." He said, "I'm not upset." He said, "You know what I'm upset at? That you're in Princeton Junction and not here." When I had that all done, my manager, and I won't say who she was, she's a lovely woman, and a good manager said to me, "Oh, I don't know about that idea." She said, "You think that's a good idea? I don't know if that's a good idea. Nobody's ever done it." As soon as she said that, I thought to myself, it's a good idea. Thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, I'll hang back for a few minutes.
May I say, just a seminar that I had attended having to do with open houses. Did you all agree with that?
Yeah.
I think that we are lucky to have Rocky on our staff. And I will tell you that Rocky did this out of his own personal generosity. Not to get anything from it and paying it forward. So for Rocky.
I will say this, if you liked what you heard and got some value out of it, I'm a volunteer and I helped start an organization called the Center for Faith Justice in Lawrenceville. If you want to jot this down, their website is faithjustice.org. If you want to go to that website and you like what you see and you want to make a little donation in my name, I would love that. If you don't, I would love that too. Still love you just as much. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.